than just a run-of-the-mill drive-in movie or 42nd Street Grindhouse.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned 42nd Street, because I also want to tell the audience, you know, I started out talking about, for me, this movie frames the golden age of serial killers. And you have to remember that I grew up in New York, in Oslo, New York, where Maniac Cop was incarcerated. And there was a serial killer stalking Times Square who was arrested the year this movie was made. Richard Cottingham.
Yeah, the guy from Jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a funny story regarding that. When I was shooting the scene in that hotel, and I was the hotel, desk worker.
We heard you all cheers.
Yeah. I mean, it's so painful to look at yourself when you look back at that age. Anyway, the thing is, when we were shooting, 2 detectives came to the hotel, and it was in regard to that serial killer. And they had just put the girls, they had mannequins in a store window in Times Square with the bloody clothes of the girls who were murdered, because they didn't have an identification for them. And they came to the hotel, which was right off of Times Square, with some lead regarding that case.
Was that inspiration for the mannequins in the movie?
No, not at all. I mean, it was happening concurrent with making the movie. I could have maybe even shot that scene already.
Okay, so when people are accusing you of making trash films that promote violence, this is a real moment where art is imitating life, because there was literally a serial killer stalking where you filmed about a serial killer.
I mean, it was going on. It was, I told you, it was the golden age of serial killers in the 70s. You know, we shot this movie in 1979. We were right at the tail end of it. And, you know, there was a lot going on in that period. You know, nowadays we have DNA. We have DNA, we have all these security cameras. It is hard to get away with crime now. You really are, or with being a serial killer. I mean, it's tough. You know, back then, it was a free-for-all. There was no DNA, there was no, CCTV cameras, nothing. It was a period where they had an open field to go out and murder.
The scene where Tom Savini blows his own head off was, it got almost a standing ovation. We were out in the lobby, but the audience went crazy during that scene. You all recognize Tom Savini, yeah? That scene got me so excited to talk to you about what I talked about on the news the other night, which is your guerrilla filmmaking style. You were unpermitted, you showed up, and you stole the shot. Please tell the audience how this movie could never be made again.
Look, moron that I was, I shot the scene on location with the Belt Parkway, which is one of the busiest parkways in New York. It was behind where the car was, so we were firing a live double-load shotgun into the windshield of this car, blowing the head off this dummy, and the bullets were going, the pellets were going out through the back window, and there was people driving behind it. And it was the stupidest thing I can imagine doing. But so what happened was, I knew we had, first, there's no permit in the world that will allow you to fire live ammunition on the streets of any city, let alone New York. So I was fearful that somebody would call the cops on us. So Savini doubled Joe shooting his own head. Savini flew off the hood of the car, excuse me, flew off the hood of the car, landing on the concrete, and at the moment I didn't care, I just wanted to get rid of the shotgun, so I had a sacrificial production assistant standing by with the trunk of the car open, and I grabbed the shotgun out of Savini's hands, and I threw it into the trunk of the car, and I tell this guy, head for New Jersey. And that's how we got away with it. But, back then there wasn't like, you know, a lot of police around. They were focused on bigger things.
Like trying to catch Son of Sam.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, you just reminded me that Tom Savini's special effects, Joe Spinell's beheading at the end of the movie. The legend is that when Joe Spinell died in his apartment, the police showed up to the apartment and they found that Joe had kept the severed head that Tom Savini had cast, and they were totally perplexed and thought for a moment that the head was real, and they weren't sure who had shown up at the apartment. So, is that legend, or did the police really think?
It's true. What happened was, I wasn't there, but Luke was there. Luke, we call him Luke the Fluke. He was Joe's buddy, and you know. And anyway, what happened was, Luke said that they broke into the apartment because Joe bled out. He was a hemophiliac, and somehow, Joe used to like when he got a load on, he would get into fights with people, and it wasn't a smart thing if you're a hemophiliac to get into a fight in a bar. You're stupid. But anyway, that's what happened. And he came home. And he took a shower somehow, and then he bled out on a couch. They came in the apartment, and Joe had the severed head positioned on his dining room table. And they come in there, and it was like blood on the floor. There's a head on the table. There was a moment they were trying to figure this out. Until Luke explained, but it's a true story.
Art imitates life, life imitates art. We've followed an arc now. A long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, when I connected with you about the soundtrack to the next movie we're going to watch, Vigilante, you and I started to talk about Jay Chataway, who's one of my favorite cinematic score composers of all time. Yeah. Tonight, hearing the soundtrack to Maniac, Jay Chataway's beautiful score through this great sound system, it was absolutely amazing. And before I escorted you in, I was saying Suspiria, Deep Red, Psycho. I put this movie against the greatest of horror films, and one of the things that
Yes!
so beautiful is Jay Chataway's score. So can you talk about Jay Chataway for a moment?
Sure. Jay, originally we wanted Goblin to score the film. And when the deal with Dario Argento fell apart, we were looking for somebody else, and his name came up. He had never really done a film score before. He had worked as a producer of someone who did for a very lousy movie, but he really had a bug. He wanted to do movie scores. I met him, and he was just this very straight-laced guy from Connecticut, family man, and I just couldn't see this guy doing the score, you know? And what happened was I fed him, you know, the scores from, you know, Goblin scores and Ennio Morricone scores, all the things I kind of wanted the Maniac to be. What's that? Mancini? Well, not so much, but it was just, I was feeding him this stuff, and I really wanted to keep an eye on him, so I went into the studio when the score was recorded and kind of monitored it, and he basically didn't listen to anything that I was telling him. And he came up with this melodic score, tapping into Joe's Spinell's psyche. And it turned out to be a brilliant idea because it didn't feel like traditional horror music. It felt something different to it. It had a difference that kind of elevated, I think. And so Jay and I became inseparable. After this, we did Vigilante, which you're about to see. And when we did Vigilante, by the way, all I said to Jay, we're making a spaghetti western. So that's the kind of music I want. I want a spaghetti western. It's an urban spaghetti western. So the music you will hear, well, he did listen to me this time. And but anyway, we did Maniac Cop 2. and we did other stuff, Relentless, and it turned out to be a really great collaboration. I love Jay, and I love the work we were able to do together.
Give it up for Jay Chataway. One of the other things we talked about when I hunted you down many years ago was I was deeply devoted to releasing the Vigilante score. I wanted to put the soundtrack out on vinyl, and there was an ill-fated union strike.
No, there was no union strike.
Tell them the tale about
Yeah, the tale of the soundtrack was part of our, Vanya Records put money into Vigilante. And there were two conditions. One is that they released the soundtrack, and the second was that Willie Colon have a part in the movie. So after we finished, the score on the film, we delivered the master tapes to Vanya Records since they owned it. They were going to put out the soundtrack. And as luck should have it, Vanya Records, not too long after that, the owner of the company died, and the company went into bankruptcy or was sold. I'm not really sure, but it was the death of Jerry Masucci, and that caused the downfall of Vanya, and they got bought by some other company. Make a long story short, the tapes got lost in all of this. And, back then we just, we were naive and we never made backup tapes. Because, who thought we'd ever need backup tapes? So the score at the moment is lost. But we're still trying.
Bill told me if I ever find the master tapes, I can release this on vinyl. So Jay Chataway told me years ago, he told me that there was a union strike among some of the Afro-Cuban Fania All-Star Band, and that caused this weird pause in the production of what would have been the soundtrack. I hunted that thing down to a storage unit in New York that had been signed out by someone they didn't know. Fania Records moved to Florida, and that score is still totally missing. So it's never been released. So the score you're going to hear tonight, it's absolutely incredible. It's Jay Chataway's music and the Afro-Cuban Fania All-Stars, and it's
the Fania All-Stars weren't in the soundtrack. They were only in. We had a couple of Fania All-Star music cues, but they were separate from Jay Chataway. And I don't recall anything regarding strikes. I don't know. Maybe something happened I was unaware of.
So a lot of your films show prison life. I mentioned Maniac Cop and the character being sent to prison in Austin, New York, which is my hometown, at Sing Sing Prison. And you almost, you being threatened by the warden that if you fly your helicopter below a certain...
Well, he was just matter of fact about it. We wanted to inform the warden that we were flying over. He goes, that's no problem, but you get below 500 feet, we're shooting you down.
You didn't get shot down, luckily.
Yeah.
But in the movie we're about to watch, you went to Rikers.
Yes.
Set that up for
Rikers is a horror. Rikers is one of the scariest places you ever want to go to. Well, one of the things I remember is they had cleared out a tier for us to shoot. So all the
it's an active prison.
It's an active prison.
And they clear out.
Right, and we had extras, playing the prisoners, and the people kind of left their cells, and they were put in some other part of the prison. And I remember seeing this Vaseline jar that I've never seen anything as large as this Vaseline jar that was in one of the cells. And I go, oh my God. I mean, it was like industrial size. I mean, that was one of my memories. But when we were shooting in this cafeteria area, and we were running overtime. And suddenly, I'm hearing like this pounding sound, and one of the guards who was with us said that the prisoners were upset because they wanted dinner, and we were holding up dinner. And he said the whole tier, they were pounding their feet, in protest. I said, all right, it's a wrap, we're out of here. By the way, one of the guys who played Prisoner, it turned out, I didn't know it at the time we hired him, but he was the head of the New York Hells Angels. His name was Sandy Alexander. And Sandy Alexander, he got into big trouble, murder. He was arrested for murder not too long after that. By the way, I got a maniac story about a protest you might want to hear. This will really I think up here it's really relevant. We had this woman standing in front of, when Maniac opens, it's on Hollywood Boulevard. There was a woman who stood in front of the theater holding up the ad. She had a press conference. She had never seen the movie. And she was the national head of the Los Angeles part of the National Organization of Women of some kind. I don't know, there was something women, I don't remember. But she was like high and mighty, this is a movie that shows you how women can get stalked and killed every day, we're here holding up the ad for the movie. It was something. She was so, righteous. Well, a couple of years later, I'm watching TV and she's arrested for murder that occurred before she was protesting the movie. So don't trust any of these people who tell you,
One of the great things about the movie we're about to watch, Vigilante, is this ensemble cast that you put together. Robert Forster, Fred Williams, and you even got Woody Strode as the sort of.
I actually wrote Woody's name in the script.
Yeah.
That's how detailed it was.
How did you get these guys together?
Oh, it's easy. You call their agents and, you get them. But what was interesting is originally when we were casting, we hired Tony Musanti to play the lead, and we had Leon Isaac Kennedy, who was going to play the Fred Williamson role. And what happened was Tony Musanti, really, I got friendly with him later, but we went to have script meetings with him. And I'm sitting there, and he's got his head in his fireplace, looking up the chimney, and he's talking to me. And I'm like going, oh, this is weird. And I'm thinking, oh, I can't do this. I can't have this guy be in the film. I'm gonna have to deal with this guy, and this is ridiculous. So we wound up, changing, and we got Robert Forster, who turned out to couldn't be a nicer guy in the world. I loved him. I was with him the day before he died, and he was just the greatest. My best friend, and I miss him so much. I think of him a lot. He came aboard to play the lead, and we got Fred Williamson, which I thought was just great, to have Fred. And that was it. It all came together. We had a casting director by the name of Lou DiGiamo, who had cast Godfather and other big movies, and that's how we got people like Richie Bright. Who's the other guy? Oh God, I forget his name. Jay something. Oh, anyway, he put together a really good supporting cast. Yeah, it was really, really good. So we had a solid cast on the film.
I told this story to our audience. We showed the film Keoma, the kind of acid Western film Keoma, maybe last year, the year before. And I don't know if you know this, but Woody Strode was an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
He was a Western actor, but he was also an Olympic athlete. And during the German Olympics, Adolf Hitler's art committee had commissioned a U.S. artist to paint pictures of Olympian artists and send them to Berlin, and they were going to have an exhibit that coincided with the Berlin Olympics. And the artist, the U.S. artist who picked the athletes that he was going to paint, chose Woody Strode because his physique was so beautiful and so muscular. And they sent this nude painting of Woody Strode over to Germany, and Adolf Hitler immediately said, "Stop sending paintings." It's a true story. It's a true story. And that's Woody Strode for you. Anything else you want to set up for Vigilante before we start?
Well, I don't want to talk too much, but
Don't give them
I think
spoilers.
90% of the audience.
Wait, once again, how many of you have never seen Vigilante?
Okay.
Yeah, no spoilers, but what should they be looking out for? What do you want to say?
Well, I mean, the most obvious thing is it's a film that was shot widescreen. And that was inspired by kung fu films. When I would go see Maniac in the grindhouses, it was inevitably played with a kung fu film at that time. And so here was my movie, you know, Maniac, and then suddenly the screen would open up widescreen for the kung fu movie. And I used to feel I had screen size envy. And that's why I was determined to shoot Vigilante in widescreen Panavision. What else can I say? We shot it all on location in New York. It was filmed in places like Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Many of the locations are still there, but looking much nicer than they do in the movie. And yeah, it was hard. It was a tough movie to make because I really didn't have enough money to make the movie I wanted to make. I was always, you know, fighting, you know, the fight, and but it got made, it got finished, and it's on the screen, and it's done well all over the world.
Well, we're gonna find out what a Portland audience thinks of it right now.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please give it up for my hero of exploitation cinema, Bill Lustig. I hope you all enjoyed Vigilante. It's one of the greatest revenge westerns set in New York City you'll ever see. And Bill, are you gonna hang out in the lobby again, or what do you want to do?
Whatever you want me to do.
If you want to meet Bill, we're gonna probably whisk him out of here before the film's over. So if you'd like to just say hello, perhaps he'll be in the lobby for just maybe 15, 20 minutes. But yeah, thank you all very much again for coming out.
Really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Great city. And I just love it up here. I could spend more time up here.
Yes, you do.
Great place. I mean, I ate the best steak I ever had last night at Gaucho Grill. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it. Don't get the lobster mashed potatoes, though. Not good. But the mushrooms and the steak are unbelievable. Hey, is my barber here?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, he did show up! Yeah! I want to give credit to Union Barbershop for my shave.
You see what Joe Spinell does with a straight razor?
Yeah.